Thank you, sir. Our next speaker is Sharon Baize. She can approach the table if she'd like. Ms. Baize, you will have 5 minutes to speak.
Thank you, and hello to you all, and thank you for your time. I'm here to discuss some concerns I've had with the jail. I apologize that my son Jason Ruff was recently in jail, entering on March 28th, but in holding for 3 days, then in quarantine for 10 days. April 11th, he woke up after 2 days out of quarantine with pain in the elbow area, swollen and red with pustule-looking sore. He requested to see a nurse. Later on the day, the same guard my son had spoken to earlier about the request had seen my son's elbow was rapidly getting worse, and then the guard went again and told the nurse that my son needed to be seen. The nurse refused the guard for my son to be taken to her. The next day, at April 12th, my son requested again to be seen, and at 2:25, the guard informed my son he was not being seen. Jason was worried by the way his arm was feeling and the red going up his arm. He knew he had contracted MRSA. He had seen it firsthand from my husband, who had contracted MRSA from an injection given by a doctor. My husband had to be admitted to the hospital for 2 days and for a week. MRSA is highly contagious, infectious disease, and it rapidly grows. Jason has also informed me that there were others that had MRSA. They told him that they had the same looking sight as he and showed them the scars that they were left with. Finally, on April 16th, after daily requests and phone calls being made to the jail, a nurse gave my son 2 antibiotics, a Z-Pack and Dioxin, I believe. At that time, they marked my son's arm to watch to see if the infection traveled. Jason called a couple days later telling me he was sick to his stomach and had problems with his bowels. Worried, as my son has many allergies to medicine, I called asking to speak to a nurse. Her name was Susan. I told her my concerns. She denied that my son had MRSA. I asked if my son had seen a doctor or if any cultures had even been taken, when I already knew they had not. So I then asked her, how do you know what my son has? I asked Susan if she actually seen Jason. She informed me she had seen him walking around and talking and that she thought he was okay. I asked if she realized how contagious MRSA is, and antibiotics wasn't all that just cures MRSA. It takes a special soap called McLean to wash, and actually the entire jail needed to be scrubbed. And I also asked Susan if she was aware that it takes a minute opening of the skin to contract it, and there was no response. I asked her if she knew the other inmates were being subject to the disease, as well as employees, and well as taking it home to their families. She told me she would go see my son at 3 o'clock, maybe at 3:10 or 3:15, and there was an attitude in her voice. She changed Jason's antibiotic actually that day to Bactrim. In a couple days, my son informed me his stomach was better, but the infection was traveling back up his arm and the pain was getting worse. He had requested again to see the nurse, but he was informed that they were no longer allowed to see him again as he was being transferred out. Not only did they say that they hadn't performed a test, but they refused to even take a test. And I truly hope I'm wrong, that it wasn't a case of MRSA. But I hope he didn't get sent to IDOC with it. But all this concern would have been alleviated had they merely just performed a test. I'm also bothered by a Detective Hinckley coming to my home on April 19th at 9 o'clock in the morning. And it was an intense moment, thinking that maybe something was severely wrong and happened to my son. I'm not sure what his motive was, but he was asking me to come to the police station that morning to talk about some kind of recording, or that I recorded something. But I told him I'd done nothing wrong and I had nothing to say, and I did not go to the police station. And I thank you for your time.